So there's this anime that's got it all tough characters and this whole gaming world vibe. It's all about this dude called Suzuki Ichiro, who's stuck grinding away at some huge corporation. One day, he's so beat that he just crashes under his desk for a quick nap. And guess what? When he wakes up, boom, he's right in the middle of the game he's been slaving over. And get this, now he's like a total powerhouse, ready to take on anything. But here's the kicker, in this game, he's not Suzuki Ichiro anymore, he's rocking a whole new persona, Sato. Suzuki Ichiro is just a regular 29-year-old dude who codes games for a living. One Sunday, he's chilling at the train station, trying to catch his ride to work. But turns out since it's Sunday, train's running early. Typical Suzuki luck, right? He's always slaving away at work, even on holidays. No wonder the guy's single and doesn't have much of a life outside of work. So, he finally gets to the office, plops down at his desk, and starts coding away. But then, his coworker drops a bombshell. Their game project War World is too darn hard for the average player. They want Suzuki to tone down the difficulty. But Suzuki's like, nah, that ain't gonna fly. He suggests adding rewards for completing tough missions without any help. That way, hardcore players can still get their kicks, and newbies won't feel totally lost. His buddy's on board with the plan, so Suzuki's like, cool, let's run it by the client. He's not about to mess with the game's vibe without getting the green light first. During lunch, Suzuki spots a lost kid and helps her out until her mom shows up. Then he goes back to the grind. Late into the night, Suzuki's still slaving away at his desk. Finally, he wraps up his coding and decides to give the game, Freedom Fantasy, a spin. But just as he's getting into it, his coworker calls it a day. The poor guy's been stuck in the office for 3 whole days, and if he doesn't show up at home soon, his wife's gonna give him an earful. Suzuki's feeling a bit jealous when he sees how much attention his buddy's getting for having a wife. But with his crazy work schedule, he doesn't have time to go girlfriend hunting. After wrapping up some project, he dives into the next one without skipping a beat. He's pulling all-nighters, grinding away at his work for 3 straight days. One afternoon, he finally finishes everything on his plate. But just when he thinks he can kick back, his coworker drops a bomb. There's a bug in the inventory. Suzuki's confused because he's pretty sure he fixed it already. Turns out, he was messing around in Freedom Fantasy while his buddy was talking about War World. It's nighttime by the time he sorts it out, and most of his pals have either gone home or crashed at the office. Deciding he's earned a break, Suzuki curls up under his desk and dozes off. But when he wakes up, he's not in the office anymore. He's smack dab in the middle of a desert-looking place that reminds him of the FFL game world. Even his appearance gone back to high school days. He checks out the interface through his eyes and tries poking at some buttons, but nothing's working. Then he figures out he can access the menu by just thinking about it. When he checks his profile, he sees his name's Sato, just like the avatar he tried out in the game. But Suzuki still believes this could be a dream. But there's no time for sightseeing because some hardcore enemies, the elite lizard troops, are closing in on him in Dragon's Valley. Being a level 1, Suzuki knows he's no match for them. So, he scrambles to find cover behind a cliff. But even hiding doesn't save him from getting nicked by an arrow. Then the reality hits him. The elite troops keep bombarding him with arrows, so Suzuki ducks and weaves, trying to fight back with whatever skills he's got. But his button-pushing efforts don't do squat, even after trying multiple times. Just when it seems like he's gonna bite the dust from the lizardmen's attack, a bunch of meteors come crashing down on them. Big explosions left and right while Suzuki's cowering behind some rocks. His XP shoots up and levels up like crazy thanks to this godly attack, and somehow manages to survive the lizardmen's onslaught. Once the meteor shower stops, Sato tries to get back on his feet. But there's one lizardman who dodged the meteor shower. This lizard dude tosses a sword at Sato and challenges him to a showdown. Sato's like, fine, bring it on. He grabs the sword and goes at it with the lizardman. During the fight, Sato notices the lizardman's health bar running low. So, he hurls his sword at the lizardman and finishes him off like a pro. After catching his breath from the lizard-slaying action, Sato tries to log out, but no dice. Same goes for saving his progress. But at least his level and skills got a nice boost from taking down those lizardmen. Plus, his wounds magically healed up. Sato tries pulling off the meteor shower trick again. He even set the aim far off, but meteors hit right on top of him. It creates a massive explosion, wrecking everything in sight. Panicking, he switches off the meteor button pronto. Then he checks his inventory and there's some awesome stuff in there. After dealing with the lizardmen, he splurges a bit, grabs a water bottle, and takes a swig cause apparently, it never runs dry. Checking his inventory again, he's rolling in dough. So, he treats himself to some upgrades, makes a cozy fire, and kicks back to chill after his crazy lizard fighting adventure. Our guy decides to do some detective work on the game's mechanics. Next morning rolls around, wanting to explore this world, and he's off to Warrior's Fortress. It's a long trek, taking a full day and night to get there. But hey, he finally arrives the next day, only to realize he's pretty close to Saru City, near the kingdom. On the way, he spots tons of soldiers, with the big shots at level 31 and the rest averaging around level 7. But just when he's checking out the scenery, a wild wyvern swoops in and attacks out of nowhere. He takes a tumble, but weirdly enough, he doesn't feel a thing. Before the wyvern can strike again, he tosses a pebble at it, scaring it off towards the city. Realizing it's cause of him, he rushes to the rescue. Sadly, he's a tad late cause the wyvern's already causing chaos, freaking out the soldiers. At first, he couldn't understand a word they're saying, but then he leveled up his language skills using skill points. In the midst of the chaos, this soldier named Xena tries to go all heroic on the wyvern, but it knocks her down hard. Our guy, Sato, leaps into action, scooping her up just in time. They land safely on a nearby branch, and once Xena's back to her senses, they get to chatting. Turns out, Xena's a mage soldier stationed in Saru City. Right after that, Xena's buddies, Lilio and Iona, show up and give Sato the side eye. But Xena vouches for him, saying he saved her life. Then Iona starts grilling Sato about who he really is. Quick on his feet, Sato spins a tale about being a traveling merchant who lost all his stuff in the meteor shower chaos. They bought it, and off they go to the city on a cart. On the way, they catch sight of the soldiers flexing their muscles, having taken down the wyvern and all. When they hit the city, Xena promised to repay his kindness by showing him around the city, and he didn't have a say in it. After Xena left, Iona helped Sato with the whole residency registration thing. But here's the kicker, in the official docs, he's still at level 1, which is good. If they find out he's level 310, hell would break out. After sorting out the paperwork, Sato bids farewell to Iona and others. Iona suggests he crash at the gate inn near the entrance, so he's off in that direction. But before he gets there, this girl named Martha pops up and drags him to crash at her inn. Even though she was 13, she was so mature for her age. They roll up to the inn, and Sato meets Martha's mom. He grabs a room and orders some grub. Martha's mom spills the beans about the meteor shower freakout, and how folks thought it was the demon lord stirring up trouble. Sato's mind's blown, cause he didn't realize there was a demon lord in this fantasy realm. But Martha's mom reassures him that the hero took care of it ages ago. She tells him about frequent wyvern attacks, and the black dragon attack years ago caused mass destruction in the city. After chatting about the demon lord, wyverns, and dragons, Martha's mom bounces, leaving Sato to chow down. Soon enough, Martha pops back in, and Sato's all about getting the lowdown on where to snag his daily essentials. Martha's pumped to show him around the city, so off they go, exploring every nook and cranny. As they're strolling along, they spot two little demi-human slaves getting harassed by some dude. The guy's all worked up and starts giving them an earful. Sato steps in, tells the guy to chill, and helps the little ones tidy up their firewood. They thank him and scamper off to find their sister. Martha seemed kinda shocked to see Sato being all nice to demi-humans. Turns out, folks aren't too fond of them cause they used to cause trouble for farmers back in the day. After that mini drama, they hit up the market. Sato haggles with a merchant and manages to snag a sweet deal on a hair clip for Martha. She's impressed. They keep strolling, and Martha shows him this dragon mask they use during harvest festivals. Then, this crafty merchant starts pitching a wig to Sato, claiming it's for the people who fancy hero's damsel in distress. Sato falls for it and buys both items, even though they're pretty useless. On the way back to the inn, Sato spots this slave girl named Arisa hopping on a cart. They share a momentary stare, but she vanishes before he can say anything. Back at the inn, Sato bumps into Uni, a little girl who works there. He gives a tip to Uni and heads to his room. Later he chows down on his grub, takes a much-needed nap. But as he's drifting off, he can't shake the feeling that this whole fantasy world might just be too real to be a dream. So, he tries poking around the menu, but nada. Then he decides to hit the streets and do some pondering and reached a vantage point to see the whole picture of the town. He's mulling over whether beating the game could zap him back to reality. But then he remembers, nah, this game doesn't have an endgame. So, he shifts his focus to just exploring this crazy world some more. Next morning, Martha's shaking him awake, blabbing about his girlfriend downstairs. Sato's scratching his head, trying to figure out who she's talking about. Turns out, it's Xena, who's got some free time and wants to show him around the city as promised. They hit the streets, and Xena insists on buying some croquettes, but Sato ends up footing the bill. She's all about repaying him for saving her life yesterday, but he's like, nah, no biggie. They sat down at the park, chowing down on their crunchy snacks. Then they go on a foodie adventure, trying out all sorts of grub. Sato's eyes light up when he spots some fried dragon wings on the menu, but turns out, they're just bat wings doused in soy sauce. As they're about to dig in, some kid accidentally jostles Xena, splattering sauce all over her blouse. But a mage swoops in offering a magical laundry service. They duck into an alley for a quick cleanup. After the spell, Xena's blouse is as good as new. Back to wandering, Sato's curious about Xena's magic. She starts rattling off some theories that leave him scratching his head. Turns out, she's been studying magic since she was knee-high to a grasshopper. She's loving every minute of it, cause magic's like her ultimate sidekick. Meanwhile, Sato just wanted to use magic for bathing, which earned him the buffoon title. Xena's dreaming of learning flying magic, and Sato's like, hey, that'd be a blast for a date. She turns all red-faced and tells him to hold his horses, till she can actually fly. After strolling around the market, they hit up the fort, and from up there, Sato spots a windmill smack dab in the heart of the city. Xena spills the beans that it's a wheat mill, or during wyvern attacks, it can be quickly changed into a battery. She suggests they check it out, but first, they swing by a temple on the way. Inside, there's this epic pic of a hero duking it out with the demon lord, wielding a holy sword that glows blue. Legend has it, only a true hero can make that sword shine blue. Suddenly, this priestess named Orna pops up, dropping some serious wisdom about the whole hero gig. Turns out, defeating the demon lord ain't as easy as just swinging a fancy sword. Orna explains that only a hero summoned by the goddess Parlian can get the job done. Xena introduces Sato to Orna, who's like the head honcho at the temple, worshipping the goddess Parlian. In the middle of their chat, Orna gets called away to heal someone, and they bid her farewell. On their way out, they bump into the owner of the cart horse, and while Xena's busy bargaining, Sato sneaks a peek at his own titles. And guess what? He's racked up some pretty hardcore ones, like Godslayer, and a bunch of others. So, Sato has this lightbulb moment, realizing he can use his meteor shower move to take down some serious foes. But he's smart enough to keep things low-key, not wanting to draw too much attention to himself. They hop on the cart horse, and on the way, Xena spills the beans about these anti-dragon towers scattered around. Apparently, they're armed with cannons that'll blast any dragon dumb enough to get too close. But there's this one tower that's seen better days, thanks to a run-in with a mini-dragon. And get this, there was even a black dragon that appeared 40 years ago, straight up busted even outer walls. Sato's all ears, asking if the hero showed up when that went down. Xena explains that the hero only gets summoned if the demon lord makes a grand entrance. And she drops another bombshell: every generation faces off against different demon lords. Some can control beasts, while others got a hold on the demon race. He learned only magic and magical weapons work on demons. They roll up to this place where a bunch of folks are gathered round, listening to this priest dude from Zaikuan Temple. The guy's spewing hate speech about demi-humans, calling them demons and all, selling stones to throw at M. In the middle of the crowd, Sato spots 3 demi-humans chained up, and people start chucking stones at M. Xena springs into action to shield the poor demi-humans from the barrage. She even gets an earful from the priest for daring to stand up for M. Sato's jaws drop as he watches Xena leap into action. Not one to sit on the sidelines, he starts scanning the crowd. Spotting some troublemakers, he starts hauling them off one by one. Meanwhile, a priest from the Galoran temple shows up, backing Xena's play. He calls out the priest for breaking royal rules by torturing demi-humans. While Sato's busy taking out sewer rats, he spots the ringleader and drags him into the spotlight. Turns out, this guy, Ertz, is the real troublemaker. He's been lending out his demi-human slaves to that priest, selling off supposed sacred stones, and riling up the masses using sewer rat people. Suddenly, things take a dark turn when this dude Ertz transforms into a demonic figure. Everyone freaks out and bolts. Sato rushes over to the demi-humans, urging them to run, but they're trapped by their master, Urza's orders, who's got M chained up tight. Sato checks their status and sees that Ertz is dead, which means they're free to go. He breaks their chains, but the demon starts casting demonic magic. Xena and some soldiers show up to take down the demon. Sato tries to intervene, but it's too late. They get sucked into a magic circle and poof, they're off to the demon nest. Now, Sato's stuck with the 3 demi-humans. After patching M up and giving M fresh threads, Sato names M, Pochi, Tama, and Lisa cause they didn't have proper names before. With their wounds tended to, they thank Sato for being so nice. Now, it's time to figure out the next move. Sato figures out a way to bust out of the dungeon and even tracks down where Xena and the soldiers ended up. And that previous demon has vanished into thin air. Then he checks out the demi-humans with him, and it turns out Lisa's the only one with any fighting chops. So, he hands her a dagger and they start navigating the labyrinth. Sato's got Tama and Pochi using their super senses to sniff out anything fishy, while Lisa's on lookout duty at the back. After a while, they catch wind of something sketchy up ahead. They sneak a peek and spot a monster chowing down on some poor soul. Lisa suggests they sneak past while the monster's distracted, but Sato decides to go full Rambo and blasts the thing with a magic weapon. He swears them all to secrecy about it, though. Later on, Sato whips up a spear from the monster's skin and makes it perfect with upgraded skills. Lisa snags a core from its guts. Turns out, that cores are like its power source and can fetch a pretty penny at the store. Sato breaks the chains off the demi-humans and arms them up, with Lisa teaching Tama and Pochi how to collect monster cores for some sweet loot. Sato and the group keep trudging through the dungeon, taking down monsters left and right, even leveling up bit by bit. After a much-needed breather and chow break, they crash for the night. Then it's back on the road for more adventuring. Sato comes up with this plan where Pochi and Tama chuck stones to distract the monster while he swoops in for the kill. They breeze through most of the obstacles without a scratch. But one time while hunting, Pochi freaked out and ran away, result in Sato to fetch her. After getting some grub, they have a shut-eye for a while before continuing their adventure. Next up, they tackle more caterpillar, rats and frog monsters, while discovering new places. And get this, the demi-humans handle those frog monsters all on their own, no help needed from Sato. Lisa's got a bright idea to cook up some frog meat, and Sato's all for it. They dig in and it was not half bad. Sato realized their levels goes up even more as they continued the journey. They press on and bump into a slime monster. Sato tries to zap it with magic flames, but no dice. Lisa steps up, schooling M on slime slaying 101, aim for the core. She takes it down like a boss, all by herself. But wait, there's trouble brewing. A level 40 beast is on the prowl, ready to pounce. Sato spots a trap room nearby, so he tosses the beast into it, leaving it to fall down the void. After mopping up that mess, they stumble into a room covered in cobwebs, with folks stuck in M. Looks like they've got some rescuing to do. Sato rounds up Lisa, Tama, and Pochi and tells M to free the humans caught in those cobwebs. Turns out, these folks are loaded and promise a fat reward once they're out of this crazy maze. But Pochi's getting an earful from one of the guys she's trying to save. Dude's not keen on being rescued by a demi-human. Sato steps in, but when the guy sees him, he starts yelling for help. Sato's not having it, though, and tells him to quit whining and save himself. The guy won't let up, annoyed by him. This dude Jim Bolton, who threatens to roast him if he doesn't pipe down. They keep on trekking through the maze, and suddenly, they hear a ruckus up ahead. Sato tells Jim and the crew that they're diving into battle. They charge in and find a bunch of slime monsters going to town on some soldiers. Sato and the gang jump into action, but the dude from before tries to play hero and just ends up freaking out when the slime monsters come at him. Thankfully, Tama and Pochi swoop in to save the day, Lisa finishing off the monsters. Sato lays the smackdown on one last last monster and frees Xena, who was caught up in the chaos. She meets the Demi-Humans and thanks M for lending a hand. After the slime showdown, they brainstorm their way out of this dungeon mess. Sato's got this feeling that something's fishy with one part of the walls. He checks the map and there's a sneaky hidden door behind it. Turns out, it leads to the room above where he tossed that monster earlier. Meanwhile, one of the soldiers found a treasure chest. But guess what pops out when they crack it open? Yep, it's the demon that threw M into this dungeon in the first place. Sato's itching to join the fray, but he's gotta keep a low profile. Demon cast a spell, turning each human against each other, giving the soldiers a run for their money. But finally, Sato figure out a way to step in without making ruckus. He uses a monster as a cover-up to dash into the next room, whips out the holy sword he snagged earlier. Then, he throws on the dragon mask and wig he bought, ready to kick butt incognito. Upon re-entering to battle, he throws rocks at Demon, dealing heavy damage. Upstairs, he's hot on the demon's tail, but before it bites the dust, the demon spills the beans about some crazy summoning ritual. A magic circle appears, summoning the Demon King that chomps down on the one that called it. Sato swoops in to save the day, put aside other people and gearing up to take down this mega demon. But turns out the holy sword ain't cutting it cause he doesn't have the hero title yet. Time to switch gears and bust out the magical gun, but even that's not enough to put a dent in this bad boy. So, Sato's throwing everything he got at this demon, but it just won't go down. He busts out a fireball and hurls it at the demon with all his might, but even that doesn't do the trick. He keeps charging forward, unleashing a barrage of fiery attacks, but it's like this demon's made of steel. Sato knows he's gotta pull out all the stops if he wants to take this sucker down for good. But here's the kicker, the holy sword he's got. It'll only work at full power if you've got the title of hero. And Sato? Well, he's not quite there yet. But then it hits him. He's got another title up his sleeve. He whips out the sword, channeling his inner god slayer vibes, and bam, he sends that giant demon king packing once and for all. Fast forward to the next day, and everyone's back safe and sound. Sato's reunited with his crew, including that arrogant dude who's finally eating some humble pie and thanking them for saving his hide. Even Xena shows up, giving Sato a big ol' hug cause he made it out in one piece. Then he got the hero title, but it was little too late though. Later, when the three Demi-Humans head to the slave trader, they officially become Sato's crew. But here's where things get interesting. Sato's offered two more slaves, Lulu and Arisa. And get this, Arisa knows how to say Sato's name without batting an eyelash. Turns out, Arisa's got a secret. She understands Japanese. So, without missing a beat, Sato scoops up both Lulu and Arisa. He round up Arisa and Lulu and introduce M to the gang. Lucky for them, they're all cool with Demi-Humans. Arisa even hits it off with Pochi and Tama, which is a relief. Afterwards, they all take a stroll around town. Sato got questions burning a hole in his brain about Arisa's Japanese skills, but with other folks milling about, he decide to hold off. Instead, he invite everyone to grab a bite to eat. Pochi and Tama are all about that meat life, while Lisa's down for anything as long as it's chicken. Arisa and Lulu, well, they've had their fair share of bland meals, so they're game for whatever. They all head to a restaurant and feast like kings. They chow down till they can't move, while Sato slip away to do some shopping. He snags some new threads for the crew and extra chicken skewers for Lisa, who's got a hankering. On his way back, Sato spots some hungry Demi-Humans and share the chicken with them. Back at the restaurant, he hands out the new clothes and then head to the inn. Martha's mom got a room ready for Sato, but there's a hitch, other rooms already packed. Everyone in the dining room's staring with hatred toward Demi-Humans, but Arisa steps up and shuts that down. Sato asks if there's a place for the gang to crash, and Martha's mom suggests the stable. So, Lisa and others all head to the stable, toss a blanket over the barn for some comfort. Sato lays down some ground rules to make sure everyone feels safe. He tells M if anyone bothers M, they're supposed to yell for him, no violence needed. He promises he'll come to their rescue. Back in his room with Lulu and Arisa, he goes to change, but before he knows it, they're offering to lend a hand. He'd politely decline. Once he's done changing, he turns around to find M in their birthday suits. Turns out, it's part of their duty to serve their master at night. Sato's not down with that. So, he covers M up with a blanket and tells M to hit the hay. As he's drifting off to sleep, he's startled awake to find Arisa all up in his personal space. He's kinda caught off guard, but he manages to keep his cool. He gives her a hug and lays down the law, reminding her not to use any magic on him cause, well, it's just not cool. He realizes she's been sneaking in some magic tricks here and there, like that time she shut down all those gawkers at the inn. He presses her to spill the beans, and she comes clean. Turns out, she's head over heels for him, like, from day one, and finding out he's not interested in their nighttime services stung a bit. So, she tried to cozy up to him, hoping to cast a little spell of her own. Oh, and surprise, she spills the beans that she's actually Tachibana Arisa, a fellow Japanese soul who got reincarnated into this crazy world. Arisa starts digging, asking Sato if he's a fellow reincarnation like her. But when she clocks his appearance hasn't changed, she jumps to a wild conclusion. He's been summoned here as a hero. Sato's mind is officially blown. Then, Arisa drops the bombshell that he's the second Japanese person she's come across. Sato's wheels are spinning, thinking maybe Lulu's from Japan too, but nope, turns out her old man is. As Sato replays his arrival in his head, he remembers morphing into a younger version of himself. Arisa keeps firing off questions, like if he met any gods or stumbled upon a magic circle. Sato's drawing blanks. He's pretty sure he landed in this world solo, without any fancy rituals or celestial meet and greets. All this head scratching leaves him more baffled than ever, so he calls it a night, hoping some shut-eye will clear things up. But come morning, Xena crashes the party and finds him snoozing with Arisa and Lulu. Angered, Xena dashes off. Sato rushes to clear up the misunderstanding. He scrambles to explain, but Xena's not buying it. Lilio, her friend, has mentioned that some dude buys slaves for wild nights. Sato sets the record straight, though. He snagged them for some extra hands, not for nighttime stuff. After a bit of back and forth, Xena finally buys it. Sato showered her with compliments about her dress and scarf, hoping to escape this situation. Then, Arisa saunters over, playing it cool. But Sato ain't fooled. He throws a flick on her forehead and tells her to round up the crew. Once she's out of earshot, he mulls over their chat last night. Turns out, she's got a crazy backstory. Used to be a big shot princess until her plans tanked and her kingdom got wrecked. Talk about a rough ride. She and Lulu barely dodged death and wound up in the slave game. Now, they're rolling with Lisa, Tama, and Pochi. When they dip out to grab supplies, Sato slides them some cash and greenlights Arisa's magic tricks. Xena clocks the crew leaving all smiles, noting how they're settling in just fine. Sato's like, I don't treat them like slaves but as family. He wants their lives to improve. So, he hits up with Xena to house hunt. They check out 3 spots with the help of Nadi. First one's chill but, the last owner got taken out. Nope, pass. Next house? Great, but it's right by a brothel. Awkward. Third one? Underground crime hub. Yikes. Back to square one. They bounce back to the agency, and the agent's on the case for another spot. In the meantime, they catch a stage drama about a couple who was in love but a noble got involved in killing the guy. But he comes back as undead only to get stabbed by a hero. The girl also takes her own life at the end. After the drama, gang's craving meat, so Sato sends Lisa on a mission. She's pumped and takes Pochi and Tama along. On the way, Sato and Xena run into Iona and his crew. They've been battling these gnarly fang ants. Some of those buggers dipped into the city. Pochi and Tama show up hauling a giant ant, and Sato's spider sense is tingling. More ants are on the way. He tells Lisa and the gang to gear up and hold the fort. Predictably, a swarm of ants storms the city. Luckily, most get blocked from the Arisa's barrier, but some slip through. It's game on in the streets. Pochi and Tama are on monster patrol, saving the inn from a close call. But one sneaks into Nadi's spot. Sato rushes over, lays the smackdown, but dang, there's poison blocking the stairs. Good thing the elf Usaratoya, with his magic mojo, rescues Nadi. Intros all around, then Sato's back to the square, seeing the ant army's toast. Night falls, and he's cruising alleys. More monsters. He shows them who's boss, then spots injured folks nearby. Quick thinking, he takes them to Nadi's place, thinking Usaratoya might know the elf girl. Inside, It's a reunion. Turns out one of the injured is an elf. Then Usaratoya recognized her as Mia, princess of the elf village. Mia saw Sato was sparkling for some reason, but her Ratman protector's in bad shape. Nadi jets for meds, and Sato's hot on her heels. Back at the inn, Sato spills the beans to Arisa and the gang about finding an elf princess guarded by a were-rat knight. Arisa got excited thinking Sato had spent a night with a Ratman, but he casually silenced her, blabbing. Lulu has been feeling under the weather, so ignoring Arisa, he hands the meds got for Lulu. The next morning, Sato's back at Nadi's. Thankfully, Mia's not hurt bad, just low on magic juice. Usaratoya had tried various magic on her, but nothing recovered her mana. Nadi suggests mana potions or taking her to a mana-rich spot, such as Count Castle or Dragon's Valley, where Sato did some meteor showering on his first arrival. Sato initially thought Mia's around 11 years old, but a shocker, she's 130 years old. Using keen hearing, he heard Mia and others waking up. Sato was introduced to Mia and Nadi asked him to stay with her till she whips up something to eat. While keeping her company, Mia tells him about spirits that are sparkly and fluffy. Sato acquired the spirit sight skill. As always, he masters the skill in a matter of seconds. He even learns the Elvish language. Sato and Mia hit it off, but duty calls. But as Sato's about to split, Mia grabs him, looking all serious, asking him to stay. With a smile, he left there to meet his gang playing with learning cards. Sato had purchased them in the hope of teaching Tama, Pochi, and Lisa how to read and write. However, their learning has been in vain thanks to Arisa going easy on them. So Sato took it over and taught Em a little. Then Martha crashes in asking Uni about cleaning the stables. Fortunately, she had already finished with the help of Pochi and Tama, which earned Em praise. Sato tells them about Mia during lunch, and the excited kids wanted to meet her. At Nadi's place, kids surrounded Mia shooting with a barrage of questions. Mia shyly hides under cover. Sato instructs them to look after her and was preparing to leave, but Mia grabs him again with a longing look. Downstairs, Nadi proposes Sato to buy a cart, but he hesitates, not knowing how to drive one. Then Lulu timidly stepped forward and suggested she could teach him how to drive a cart. So he greenlights the purchase after checking the price of a cart, but he hands Nadi a hefty sum saying she could keep the change. So much for being a merchant, huh? The next day they go on a camping trip outside. They started with laying out a tent, foresting food, clearing out the area, making a temporary fire pit, and cooking with stuff they gathered. Pochi and Tama got freaked out by the whistling kettle, and then Arisa gave them a lesson about how a whistling kettle works. During that, the same Demi-Humans Sato helped out the other day approached him, giving him some fruits and nuts collected in the forest. Pochi and Tama rushed there, thinking they are bothering Sato. He cleared the misunderstanding, but Sato, feeling bad, gave them some more meat from his item storage. They dashed away happily with them. The following morning, Sato finally bought that horse-drawn carriage to transport goods discreetly. Arisa suggests using their cart to take Mia back to her elf village in Shiga Kingdom, as Lulu gives him a crash course in driving the cart, but her reserved nature makes things awkward. However, when Sato brought up the topic of Arisa, her half-sister, she couldn't stop talking about her, making her a bit relaxed. Sato was glad she's finally getting relaxed around him. Sato realizes people always talk eventually, they just need the right subject. He wonders if Lulu knows of Arisa's past life. As they drive, Sato increases the proficiency bit by bit using skill points and masters it, acquiring the coachman title. On their way back, Sato felt a suspicious gaze, only to realize it's a shadow owl giving Sato the side eye, leaving him feeling uneasy. Back in the city, the gang welcomes him and explains about Mia's recovery thanks to some magic potion. Mia's craving for honey buns, so Sato asks Lisa and Arisa to go and fetch some. Then Sato felt the same creepy gaze from before, only to realize that the shadow owl from before had followed him. He heads over to Nadi's place, where he meets the were-rat knight, Misei, who was with Usaratoya. Finally, he gets the full scoop on Mia's kidnapping saga. She's actually an elf princess who got snatched from her village by a mage, and imprisoned in a place called the Cradle, but was rescued by Misei and other were-rat knights. They were on the way to meet up with Usaratoya. Unfortunately, the mage is still hot on their trail, leading to sending a flying ant army to attack the city and sudden assault at night. Although Sato senses there's more to the story, like the reason behind Mia's kidnapping, he keeps quiet. Suddenly, screams from downstairs. It turns out to be just a false alarm triggered by a lightning scare. Everyone including Mia and Arisa hugged Sato tightly. Surprisingly, Arisa is terrified of thunder despite being older than others. Mia adds fuel to the fire by saying even dragons get knocked out by lightning. But then Tama noticed something weird. As Sato checks out, it was that shadow owl from before. At that moment, it transforms into a humanoid figure in a cloak, ready for a showdown. Realizing it's the same foe who tried to kidnap Mia, Mise dashed towards him, only to get knocked down by psychic magic. Even Sato couldn't move until Arisa put up a little resistance with her magic, giving Sato enough time to activate his fear resistance skill. Then it was revealed standing in front of them is the Undead King, the highest rank of the undead. But something about his name Zen rang a bell. It turns out the same name of the guy became undead in that play the other day. Zen has come to retrieve Mia, but Sato got in the way, introducing himself as a mere merchant. The Undead King was surprised at how Sato is able to withstand his power. Zen declared if he let him take Mia, he wouldn't harm anyone there. But Sato's not having it, calling him a fool for even asking that. He checks on Nadi and others who fell unconscious, before dashing in for a powerful punch. But it just went through the Undead King and he used shadow magic to capture him from the leg. He's no pushover with his shadow magic. Zen was impressed once again, seeing Sato's martial arts skills. At that moment, Arisa throws a magic attack on Zen, revealing his skeleton face. Angered, he attacks Arisa with shadow magic, but his attack is halted by Sato and Usaratoya. Then Sato cuts through Zen's shadow magic, giving him another shock. Arisa's determined to beat the Undead King with Sato, but Mia asked them to run away thinking it's pointless. However, Arisa and Sato ain't gonna give up, and Arisa ready to spell as Sato buys time as he talks. Then points his gun at him, stating he has plenty of tricks up his sleeve. Zen was curious if he got the hero title up his sleeve as well. At that moment, Arisa's spell was ready and Sato jumped out of the way and unleashed it, taking Zen by surprise. She had put all her energy into it, but even that didn't finish the Undead King. But she nearly had him though. Zen identified that Arisa is a reincarnator with her hair color and her unique skill. Arisa collapsed from mana exhaustion, while Zen put up a barrier against Sato's gunshots. Surprisingly, Zen the Undead King gave Sato an advice. It's to keep Arisa from using her skill to avoid her from becoming a god's plaything. Then he suddenly uses shadow magic to keep Sato busy as he snatches Mia away, drowning into darkness. Lulu and Lisa swoops into the scene and Sato instructs them to check on others. Then he follows Zen and Mia without a second thought, end up in a completely dark scenario, without any map area to boot. Sato uses his willpower to brute force and get out of this shadow prison. There he end up in the top floor of the cradle, once again impressing Zen. He tells him that he got an amulet to counter such magic. Then Sato was trying to reach Mia, but Zen's like, nah not yet bro, and kicks Sato right out to the entrance of the cradle to face off the trials before facing the Undead King. Turns out it's a massive tree consist of 200 floors with monsters. He checked the map and sure enough, this place was close by to town, so his return trip gonna be a breeze. It was revealed that the cradle is a training ground made in the hopes of strengthening the elven race. So Sato started battling various kinda monsters left and right with ease as he progresses through the cradle. It was kind of a breeze though, thanks to his godlike stats. Once he reaches 20th floor, meets a dryad, a spirit plant. He thought he was to defeat her, but turns out, she's like the elevator for this dungeon. But to function she needed MP, which she got by forcibly kissing Sato, earning him the title of Dryad's victim. She shows him the hidden room of Traza Yuya, an elf and the creator of this dungeon. There he gathered some info like Traza Yuya created this dungeon to help the elf race to steal their will to struggle and strengthen themselves so they can survive any danger 4-1M. Then with the Dryad's guidance, he cruises up to the 100th floor, where he finds himself some funky humanoids cooked up by an alchemist. Plus, there's a giant rock golem in the mix. But they weren't ready to battle and Sato had to wait for M to gear up. Talk about awkward. Then he was asked to defeat the golem before advancing further, which he did by a single gunshot. Well, mostly thanks to their obvious hints about its weak point. In a desperate attempt to escape, 3 of humanoids initiate a surprise attack on Sato. One humanoid dashed toward him to let other 2 to flee. Sato managed to knock unconscious the remaining one without harming her. He helps himself to some items from the item shelf nearby and he left the humanoid on a blanket there, before advancing further. Next stop, Dryad's spot, only to find out, she's all dried up. Sato plays the hero and revives her with a splash of water. Revived and grateful, she got her MP forcibly from him nevertheless, but she informs that she can only send him up to 180th floor cause there's a disruption in the line. Then Dryad helps him move on to that level. Up there, he faces off against a swarm of insect creeps. He smacks them down like a boss and finally catches up with Zen and Mia. Zen's like, "Whoa, dude, you're quick," but he couldn't accept the fact that Sato is strong enough. So he whips up another challenge with an ancient holy sword as a reward. Then suddenly he was surrounded by 3 rock golems and 7 armed humanoids, ready to fight. Then Zen casts some kind of buff magic to boost their skills, before disappearing with Mia. He faces hundreds of ice arrows, Sato dodging them left and right. Then enhanced by buffing spells, humanoids and rock golems rushes to him in hopes of surrounding him. He grabs a spears and attacks the golem, then activate his spear skill, punching a hole through the golem. He do the same for another golem from behind but a humanoid jumps up to him through that. He knocked her away without injuring her. Then another 2 onto him, their eyes are bleeding cause of that buffing magic taking a toll on their body. Sato knocked them down, one by slamming onto a wall, other with an attack on her back. Then another 2 rushes to Sato's side, but he jumped up high, facing their barrage of magic, then kicked them away with his swift moves. But they weren't giving up. Sato asked them why sacrifice themselves for someone treated them like puppets. But they ain't gonna stop and even managed to slice up his spear. But she was kicked away the same way. And the last one has gotten so weak and Sato defeated her with a punch to her gut. She was asking him to grant their master's wish as she fell unconscious. After that Sato angrily approached Zen, asking about this wish of him. Then he reveals his story about his life. The play from the other day actually based on his life story but changed thanks to Noble's influence. As per true story, Zen was born into a prestigious family and he even got a beautiful wife. He thought his life would be blissful, but God had other plans. A noble fell in love with his wife and Zen was executed for a false crime along with his family members. And the same happened to his wife, like a doll discarded after using it. But God made Zen the undead king, along with his undead family members and his wife. They destroyed that noble house. Even though everyone was able to rest after that, Zen, the undead king, is unable to die cause of the god's blessing. He tried all the methods he could possibly think of but nope. Ultimately lead to this strategy, finding someone with hero title to end his life with the holy sword. He begs Sato to end his life before he fallen into darkness furthermore. So Sato pulls out the holy sword, did exactly that. And for the first time in hundreds of years, Zen smiled as finally get to meet his beloved in afterlife. As Zen faded into nothingness, his wedding ring falls off, and Sato takes it. But then a suspicious figure evolved from there calling Zen a failure and vanishes saying goodbye to hero Sato. Then he reaches to scoops up Mia, who's still out cold. But oh snap! Cradle's going to self-destruct and instruct everyone to evacuate. Sato used a mana potion to get Mia awake. He asked if she can do something about self-destruct thingy. Mia's like, chill, I got this, but she gave up pretty quickly. Then Sato takes a look and realizes Zen had installed a teleportation function to escape as long as they are close to Mia. But then Sato remembers about those humanoids, especially the one he left on bottom floors. He rounds the remaining ones on the top floor around Mia and promised her that he'll make it alive as they teleported away. Then he rushes downstairs, to that humanoid girl knocked out cold. He used a hole in the cradle to descend faster. Then he scoops her up and meets up with Dryad. He wants her to teleport him outside but she needed some seeds for that. Thankfully the berries and nuts got from those demi-humans were still on Sato. Then along with some nuts and a little bit of mana, voila, they are outside. But then bam! A tsunami caused by Cradle's self-destruction. He asked the Dryad to come along but she's like, nah, I'm good as long as there are trees. So he rushed out there leaving her behind. Sato maximizes all his transportation skills but there's no hope of breaking those waves. He cracked up his brain for an answer and remembered about the whistling kettle incident. Then he used his advanced fire shots at huge waves. Soon enough it became a massive barrage of fireballs, earning him the title, the Master of Hellfire. He managed to survive and watch the cradle collapse from the distance. Meanwhile, Lisa and others waiting for him outside worried sick. As soon as he came to their sight, they surrounded him with tears in their eyes. Upon seeing Arisa, he remembers about Zen's warning not to let her use God-given skills so casually to avoid having the same fate as him. Then Mia and Usaratoya arrived at the scene. Mia gave him her sincere gratitude on behalf of the whole elf race. With Zen out of the picture, Sato's the new master of all those humanoids. He gives them the news about their former master passed on as he wished, and he hands over Zen's ring to the girls. Before serving Sato, they plans to deliver the ring to Zen's wife's resting place, but they are leaving one behind, the same girl Sato saved from bottom floors. Oh, and Sato names the girl Nana. Meanwhile, Arisa is frustrated about new girls keep adding to Sato's gang. Sato reports the incident to guards, but with a little bit of lies in the mix, like he got rescued by someone. Then Xena rushes there, getting the news about Sato's return, but she couldn't hold back tears. Guards let them alone. Feeling sorry for worrying her, Sato gives her a pair of earrings that caught her eye before, but he drops the bomb about he's leaving the town to escort Mia back to her village. However, he promised to return once he's done, which consoles Xena. On the day of the departure, everyone came to see him off, but Xena chased after them, expressing her desire to come with him, but she can't cause a family. So she gonna have to wait till her brother takes her post next year, and she promised to join Sato then. As they went further away, Sato felt lonely, but Nana pulls him onto her chest wanting to console him, freaking Arisa out. The long journey to escort Mia to her village wasn't just boring carriage rides. They didn't forget to have little feasts and enjoy the scenery. Sato complimented the girls about their cooking, sounding like, "Wow, you girls make great wives someday." But Sato noticed Mia is avoiding meat dishes, thinking she's a picky eater. Mia's like, "No meat, it's yuck." Then he was told elves don't eat meat, only veggies. On the other hand, Pochi and Tama are all about meat to the point of no meat no life. Sato noticed Lisa doing some cooking to eat later, and he's like, "That's smart." But he wondered how she gonna keep it during the carriage ride. Then Arisa arrived. She's like, "I'll take it from here," and told Sato about storage magic, which is entirely different from his game-like storage thingy. Arisa's spell costs some MP, unlike Sato's item storage. Arisa warned him not to overuse though, cause it would squeeze out all his mana otherwise. Then Sato thought, hey, I should mess around with my storage sometimes. He realized this world isn't so bad after all. Before they take off, Sato assigns the chores to the gang, like taking care of horses and loading stuff to the carriage and stuff like that. But then Sato glanced at Mia, thinking, well, she's looking good, after all that she has been through, but he couldn't shake off the feeling of something bothering her. Arisa arrived there, talking about retouching the straw seat cushions, complaining about the straws in M kept poking at their bottoms. So on to the mission, fixing all the cushions to protect their bottoms. Everyone gathered around. Arisa started teaching how to do the basic sewing. Then Sato suggested adding a layer of leather to seating cushions, so the straws wouldn't poke out. But Arisa got surprised cause the leather stuff is so pricey, but Sato's like, I don't want everyone's bottoms to get scratched up cause I'm going cheap. Arisa, like always, being a freak, joked that their back wouldn't be soft for him to touch anymore if they got scratched like that. Then Sato, being a cheater like always, maxed up his sewing skills, showing off to everyone of his inhuman sewing skills. But he forgot to knot the end of the thread, making Arisa mad to the point of screaming. He realized skills are one thing but common sense is another. Soon enough they finished fixing all the seating cushions. Sato's ultimate skill allowed him to master the sewing craft and acquire the skill of doll making. Girls gathered around to check out new toys, but Nana rushed there to ask permission to have that little duck doll to herself. She's like, it's so cute and fluffy, and Sato had no choice but to give in. In the end, he had to make dolls for everyone. A bunny for Mia, a tiny Tama doll for Pochi, and a petite Pochi doll for Tama. But then he felt jealous glares directed towards him, making him realize, if I don't make one for everyone, there's gonna be hell to pay. Their adventure keeps rolling, trekking through country roads until the next stop. Watching Tama and Pochi playing around, having the time of their life, Sato decides to relax for a while. He checked the status of the horses and asked Lisa, "Let's just chill for a while." But Sato is still concerned about Mia, who's having a little tired mood. He noticed some weird rocks piled around the corner, and gathered up Pochi and Tama to let M investigate that. He's like, "Conduct a full and thorough search on those ruins." They were overjoyed and dashed towards it, and Arisa followed M thinking it's fun. After they left, he noticed Mia and Nana from a distance. Mia busts out her leaf music skills. Sato approached M, complimenting her. She blushed and smiled for the first time on this journey. Nana asked Princess Mia to teach her how to play a leaf like that, but she didn't like to be called a princess. So Sato asked Nana not to address her like that. Then Mia's crash course on how to play a leaf began. Everyone else gathered around, trying their best, only to let out weird noises instead of any music. When Sato tried it, he let out an embarrassing noise, getting everyone's pitied looks. So naturally he tried cheating again using his skill points, but that didn't help him at all. Arisa complimented him saying, "Dude, you sound like a dying mouse in a mousetrap." Mia couldn't hold it anymore and snatched the leaf away from him to avoid any casualties. To add salt to the wound, Lulu tried consoling him, making it more awkward. Then Arisa dragged him away to show him what they found on those ruins. He was shocked to realize it was a Japanese stone torii, but he couldn't figure out how in the world there's a stone torii in this fantasy world. Arisa, being a reincarnator, concludes there must have been a Japanese shrine here. Sato got deja vu seeing it, like, "Man, I've seen this before, but where?" At that moment, some hidden memory awakened inside him, a goddess-like girl calling him by his real name Ichiro, and promising him that we'll be together until the end of time. Then he realized it's his childhood friend and the shrine is the one near to his grandpa's house. The girl was mumbling, "The lifespan of gods and humans are so different, and in order for them to be together, they need divine intervention." Then he remembered the girl is doing Kagura dance, a dance dedicated to a goddess who fell in love with a mortal human. But he was disrupted by Arisa and got back onto reality. Then another crucial fact came to his mind. None of those memories happened in real life, and he remembered about making a game related to that shrine. Then he decided to head back to others where Pochi waiting for M with a prey. Tama also arrived with a rocket wolf cub, but Arisa wanted to cuddle it a bit. However, it woke up and ran away, putting Tama in a bad mood. Arisa hurriedly consoles her with some pancakes from her storage, but they were gone cold cause her storage magic spell isn't capable of time freeze. Sato realized that his item box is far more advanced than hers. Discovering some magic books in his inventory got from defeating Zen the Undead King, he started his mission to create and mess around with magic. Being a former programmer, it wasn't that hard for him, but while he was so concentrated on it, his hand was doing something unholy to Nana. It awakened the wrath of the other girls, especially Arisa. As they continue the journey, some ratmen pop up in Sato's map. He realized it could be the friends of Misei, the Were-Rat warrior. He was right on the mark, and it was a touching reunion. Later, Sato wanted to try the spell he created before and seek Mia's help with it, and of course, succeeded with the bubble bath spell. At night, while keeping watch, Sato's magic experimenting urges couldn't be contained. He did some experiments on his storage skills, how it can store items without touching, his ability to sort out components, temperature handling, and stuff. So he stored that night's leftover food and gave them to others as reheated on next morning. They continued the journey and ran into all the other Were-Rat knights. They arrived at a grave for Were-Rat warriors who died protecting Mia. Mia prays and guides all their souls to the next life. A few days later, they arrived in a new city, but their first experience was witnessing a town guard mistreating a helpless man. He even gave an evil eye to Sato, and Lisa reminded him that he's the same guy who tried to snatch away some monster cores from them a while back. Sato couldn't leave that injured man as it is and quickly gave him a healing potion, which is considered very expensive. Arisa's like, "Whoa there buddy, those potions aren't cheap." So Sato's like, "No worries, I'll DIY it." Now he set a new goal for his life. Let's master alchemy and learn to make potions. He started working on it soon after, surprising Arisa with being so multi-talented. Following instructions, he made a fever reduction potion at first. Then he used that potion, some elixir, and MP and transmuted it to create a low-grade HP recovery potion. Then it's time for cheating. He maxed out his transmutation skill and made a high-grade HP recovery potion. However, it was noted that magic potions must be stored in a specialized vial, or the potion will degrade over time. There he noticed some kinda special magic circle under the vial. So he's like, this gotta be the trick. He's so pumped up on alchemy, but the ingredients ran out. So no more alchemy for today. Instead he's gonna mess around with magic tool creation at night. Introducing magic item number 1. But it's just a mana eater. The only thing it does is emitting a light, going in round and round, disappointing Arisa. When Sato tried it out, it exploded due to excessive mana, panicking all the other girls. Continuing their travel, Sato noticed there's many blank spots on his map, which doesn't happen often. He wanna explore them just in case, better safe than sorry. They arrived at Nuki City. Heading to pick up alchemy supplies at the alchemy shop, they ran into some suspicious dude with heavy luggage. Talking with the lady in the shop, he learned that monster cores can be traded for magic scrolls, but then again, it's illegal to buy and sell monster cores. Moreover, all the potion vials had been purchased by the person before. He bought some elixirs and asked Lisa to go back to others, even though she insisted on staying with him. At night, Sato's secret mission commenced. First, he disguised himself and used his monster cores to trade with some magic scrolls. Then he acquired the magic in them: shield, sonar, signal, and blow. Mission objective: explore the blank areas in the map and ensure the safety of others. Once preparations done, he heads to one of those blank areas. As he advanced forward, at some point, he crossed over some kinda barrier, and the map finally cleared and revealed it's the Forest of Illusion. He was lil disappointed though, cause it didn't really look that illusionish. But there wasn't any time to relax, some group approaching him in a fast pace. Soon after he was attacked by iron golems and with earth magic. But for Sato, these are just child's play. He kept insisting he doesn't want to fight and he'd just leave, but the girl ain't the type to listen, and kept on throwing spells at him. But all of them just crushed easily by Sato. He's like, let's talk things over, but the girl's just too naive. At that moment a giant bird landed on top of that girl, and the witch in charge of the forest emerged. She kneeled and welcomed Sato into the forest. Turns out that lil girl from before is the witch's apprentice Inanimana. Both of them apologized to him and assumed Sato is the emissary of the Bolanan clan cause of the bell he got from Misei as thanks. So, he's like, I ain't no emissary, just your average merchant. They mentioned about a pact with the Count Kahano in the area. It's simple. In exchange for keeping outlaws, hunters and other troubles out of the forest, they deliver 300 vials of special potions twice a year. Which even went as far as teaching Sato the recipe for that special potion, but in return, he got to deliver some letter to the giant of that forest. On his return trip, Witch casted spell revealing the true nature of the Forest of Illusions. Sato couldn't help but to take back the previous statement about the forest. When he's back, Arisa throws a tantrum, thinking he must have been messing around with girls the whole night. He wanted to get some vials and met up with a potter, but overhears a convo between two suspicious dudes talking about sabotaging some delivery. They seemed to planning to become the next lord or something. But Sato was interrupted by Arisa and others who came to pick him up. Guess there's no nighttime fun for him now. The next day as they strolled through the city, Sato's map detected Inanimana being chased by some thugs. So, they rushed there to help, and turns out she's on her way to deliver those 300 vials. Sato ordered Lisa and others to stop the thugs while he's doing the same in background. But all their efforts were in vain, cause soon after Inanimana's carriage collided with some carts blocking the road. Most of vials were destroyed, but Sato could recover some in the half-destroyed bottles. Having no choice, they reached out to the Lord Birkins and told the incident, but he's like, deal's a deal, no excuses. But at that moment, Sato picked up their voices and remembered the convo from the other day. Judging by their attitude, Sato realized these guys definitely wanna fail this delivery, cause they wanna get access to the Forest of Illusion and destroy it to make a town on top of it, so he can be the lord there. But Sato ain't having that. He upped his negotiation skills to the maximum and got M to agree, if they were to deliver the rest of the vial before sundown, the pact should be intact. They gathered up the ingredients, but being the naga as always, Inanimana kept on and on about, even though they made the potion somehow, there won't be vials for M. Those guys had bought all the vials beforehand, this in mind. However, Sato's like, chill out, I've got this. Their next stop was the potter from the other day. Usually, It isn't allowed to make pots like this, but the owner allowed M, realizing they in trouble. Sato assigned Arisa and Mia to help Inanimana with the potions while others worked on vials. As always, Sato cheated through the way, maximizing pottery skills, and made M with perfection, surprising everyone. However, everyone else was struggling and getting nowhere. Then there's another problem. It's true they can make the vials like this somehow, but they gotta dry M out for 5 days at least. Looking for an answer, Sato cracked his brain. He messed around with some magic spells to create a spell that could dry the pots. Mia tried it on the pots and it worked. So the potter is like, "We're back in business, people, keep it up." They spent hours making the rest of the pots and even managed to put them in the kiln. As they were waiting for it to finish up, lackeys of that annoying lord were right at the scene. They claimed it was illegal to make vials without permission and got ready to destroy the kiln. But Sato acted quickly, and stored the vials in his storage. So the guys destroyed the kiln and went away insulting the gang. Everyone was so depressed over it. I mean everyone except Sato. And he's like, "Chill everyone, it's all good." Then he borrowed the bird with Inanimana to send a message to the witch. Sato shows Arisa the vials that he was saved, but they started cracking cause he stored them in high temperature state. So once again Sato find himself in a tricky situation. This time he got the idea of using that simple storage spell learned from Arisa. He recalled the experiments from the other day. He noticed, unlike his unique storage, in the magic storage spell, the time flows inside. Intending to use that, he dragged one of those into that ordinary magic storage and used wind magic on it. And what do you know, they got a solution to cool M down. By the end of the evening, they finished doing the rest, and delivered M. Berkance and his lackey were like, "If you ain't got the goods, just scram." But Sato presented the delivery document for 300 vials, taking them by surprise. They even tried accusing Sato of tricking M, but he just brushed it off. But then Lord just went silent, almost acting like buying time cause it's almost time to sundown. Sato insisted again to sign it, but at that moment the Count Kahano appeared. Berkance freaked out with this sudden turn of events. Turns out the witch told him about this evil scheme thanks to Sato's message. The Count has known the father of Berkance from past, and gave this position to Berkance out of respect to his father. Count declares Berkance is banished from this kingdom, but isn't about to go down without a fight and cast an attack spell on the Count. But unfortunately, he can't hurt the Count in his own domain and the spell just dispersed. The Count Kahano drew his sword to end their lives, but Sato jumped in and kicked them unconscious, stating there's kids present. The next day as they are about to leave, Sato hears that Count promised the potter a new kiln and the priority over all deals in the area. He's like, "Ma life gonna be walk in the park from now on." Witch and Inanimana hand him over a special lamp made by them as well as bestowed upon the friend of the witch's title on Sato. Alright, once again they're back on the road. The girl's like, "Your wish is my command, master." Back in Zena's town, she got a letter from Sato summarizing some stuff that happened and what they plan to do. Meanwhile, Sato and the gang taking a break from traveling. Lisa and Pochi brought some plants that looks like aloe vera but with a sweet taste like sugarcane. All that juice is on his fingers, so he's like, "Help yourselves girls," and Pochi and Tama hurriedly licking M, while everyone else looking at the scene, flabbergasted. Arisa too jumped on the opportunity but Sato pushed her away. At night, Pochi asked Sato to read M a bedtime story, and Sato's like, "Why not? It's a story about 7 deities control the world, and about the dragon god, the strongest god, and about the demon god who spreads evil. To stop the demon god and demons from reigning over humans, the dragon god bestowed the hero summoning spell on the goddess in charge of this world." By the end of the story, all the kids were asleep like babies. The next morning he woke up to find himself surrounded by all the girls, sleeping next to him. Then he's like, "I can get used to this," but his fun time was interrupted by jealous Arisa and Lisa. Sato heads out ready for another day in his new fantasy. Alright guys, that wraps up my recap, and if you liked what you saw, give a slight tap on that subscribe button and bell icon for more.